like impossible.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, it's like trying to when someone asks like, "What is Game of Thrones about?" and they haven't seen a single episode, it's like I can't even get into this with you. Like, where do I start?
While you're watching like the last season.
So explaining like a mix or like the something like that to someone it's virtually impossible.
It is. It's appreciated by everybody in the audio world, but and that's okay. To be honest,
that's why we got to stick together, because I don't know. I don't have a lot of. I have friends, but I don't have a lot of friends that I can talk audio with.
Yeah,
I have various people from my other interests, and then people from work, of course, that I get along with really well. But then I can't talk about like my mix bus chain with them.
It's not the same. That's for sure. I find that as well. Most of my like music friends when I was first starting out was all on the internet. So it was nice to have that.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody else actually physically being there, it was very hard to like talk about music and like the audio side of things and have people understand. People tried to, though, for the most part.
Yeah.
My parents.
Your parents, what are they supportive of what you're doing? And
very.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've always been supportive. I think I was in grade 10 and I was kind of starting to get really into it, and I was really enjoying myself and getting serious about it. So they bought me Logic.
Dope.
And that was just kind of like the starting point. Shortly after I got Ableton, I think I told you about that. But no, they've always been very supportive. And, I used to make like dubstep, like the very, very like hardcore Skrillex type stuff. And my dad definitely did not understand it, but they always came from like a perspective of like, this is what he likes doing.
That's good. What do they do?
My dad is a computer scientist.
Okay.
Yeah, and my mom has she's done some yoga instructing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she hasn't been back to that, and she loves doing that. And interior design.
Okay.
So she hasn't quite like found that thing.
But has a creative flair.
Yeah, I would say I get most of my creative flair from my mom.
So and that's cool though. Like, so they weren't like, your dad's a scientist. They weren't like forcing you to go to school really to pursue the studies. Like they saw that you were genuinely had a passion for this and supported you, and like you said, got you Logic and got you a head start, and like that's really cool.
That is really cool.
Right?
Yeah, I'm very thankful for that.
Because I have had other people on the show with completely different stories, right?
Yeah, and a lot of that's tough for
where they're fighting with the parents.
Yeah, or trying to convince them that this is what I really want to do.
Yeah,
I've been very lucky in that respect. They've always just let me go full on.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you got Logic, and then what was that like?
That was awesome. Around that time, I was just playing around with loops because that was really like started from the ground up.
Yeah,
I had no real previous musical experience.
Okay.
I used to play piano a little bit, but nothing intense. So
right.
That was just like the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
Started playing with loops, and then started trying to make loops.
Yeah. Did you have a little MIDI controller eventually to like build your own sounds or trigger your own sounds, I guess, at that point?
I did. I ended up getting an M Audio Axiom 49 key, I think. I still have it. I still play around with it. But for the most part, I actually kind of like just dragging in or recording right into it and making my own samples that way too. So.
Oh yeah, like with a little USB interface and a mic kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of unorthodox, but a lot of the time, every week recently, I've been just as a training exercise, and because it's really fun, I record vocals and sounds through my laptop mic, just
Oh wow.
straight in, and it's refreshing. Just because, you know, it's just the audio is already so bad. Really, there's a lot of like room noise, and you're picking up everything.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you can kind of take it to the extreme after that because it's already kind of destroyed. So
you're using these with the intention of down the road use like as messed up sounds. Like you're not going to use that as your lead vocal, hopefully.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I mean, like I put out like a sample pack last month, and it was like 10 weeks of those samples building up. And
oh wow.
I think people found a few things that they really liked, and I still use some of those samples.
That's
just
crazy.
Throw them in, and
that's cool.
It's like a starting point because it's a bit of a creative. It's less about the technical aspect of things and more about just diving in and having fun with it.
Yeah, and just exactly like throwing the rules out of the way and just having some fun with it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's important.
Yeah,
because we're all about rules most of the time.
Yeah,
so it's nice.
That's cool. So you built a sample pack. And did you sell that? Like you said, other people were using it, or are you just giving it away? And...
I just put it up. I gave it away. Along with the sample pack, every week I made a beat with the samples. So I put those out too. And people can check them out and, you know, have, see where I came from and then do their own thing.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was fun. A few friends told me to go through Splice, but it was, you know, just didn't want to. I think maybe in the future I might try that, but
yeah, I've heard of. We have Splice at 2-Track, but I've never used it. So what is it exactly?
It's basically like a massive sample library.
Okay.
I don't personally use it that much. I either play with the samples that I've made myself or just samples that I really like over the years.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't use it because there's just so much. Once you go down that rabbit hole of like finding sounds, you're there for an hour.
So it's an online platform for samples.
Basically, yeah. Artists will do a sample pack series with them.
Oh, very cool.
And it's beneficial for like producers and audio engineers to get into that sort of thing because there is some money in it as well.
Sure.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, that's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I've got enough on my hands with the tens of thousands of loops in Logic 10 at this point, so I don't know. And then I'll make my own from that point as well. Like, you know, if there's an 8-bar drum loop that I like, but it has a weird hi-hat pattern halfway through, I'll just use the first 4 bars and then I'll make that, you know, and I'll loop it. So, I mean, yeah, the creativity is endless as it is, and I don't know if I would have the patience to go through and actively seek out more samples. I've already got from school and stuff, and from people that I know have been given me like drum loop libraries as well. So I've already got tons of those, which I use a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, you know, what I find that I do regularly is get the Logic loop in there as like the blueprint, and then go through my drum sounds and audition a snare for an hour.
Yeah,
to like the right, or maybe
right
2 snares to layer it up, and
that,
you know, the Logic kick sounds really MIDI-ish or cheap. You know, layer another kick on there, and then I do that. So my drum sample library is super duper useful. Comes in handy all the time.
Yeah, Splice it's crazy. There are some really, really good sounds.
Yeah,
but
I bet.
You just have to be careful not to go too far into it.
Is it expensive?
No, I think it's $9 a month.
Okay.
You can also. That's the thing. I don't really know how that works. I think there are a few plugins that you can actually pay month to month through Splice.
Oh yeah.
A few plugins have that sort of deal. I don't know if you've heard of Serum.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Steve Data? Duda?
So you think
The creator.
Creator?
Yeah. Yeah. They've kind of set that up, which is cool.
So those work like in conjunction with each other.
Yeah.
Serum and Splice somehow.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of like an incentive for people to kind of pay month to month, and then on top of that, they're kind of getting tokens for samples. That's kind of the way it works.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but I don't know too much about that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of didn't really put the sample pack up there.
I see.
Because it was unfamiliar territory, and I was just like, maybe next time when I do more research on it.
I listened to the link that you sent. I checked out some of the stuff you submitted. I found it a bit confusing because a lot of it was remixes.
Yeah, on SoundCloud especially. For sure.
The one that I really liked was Like a Ghost. Is that what it's called?
That one, yeah. That just came out on Tuesday.
So when it says remix underneath, and then there's like an original artist name. So what are you doing to the song, or like how much of it is your original composition, and like how much are you contributing to it?
For sure. Over the years, because that's actually kind of where I started. That was a learning block for me. It was taking another song and kind of flipping it and remixing it and doing my own thing to it.
Yeah.
So over the years, you just kind of get used to it, and then you sort of start developing your own sound. So that's been happening in the last 2 or 3 years. So for remixes, I really only use the vocal.
Okay.
The Breathe remix, which is on Spotify, that's an official remix. So they sent the stems over, and all I used was the vocal, and the rest is my own work.
Because the big glaring question I had when I first heard it was who's mixing the vocals and the things, because it sounded fucking clean, like really clean. So the people are sending you the raw stems, or how, like, what
they sent I think they sent the dry and the wet stems. So when that happens, I actually just kind of like to play with both.
Yeah.
For the dry, I'll actually probably end up distorting it a little bit and just kind of driving it under the wet vocal. But in terms of mixing it and really making it fit in the track and all the ambience that's going on outside of it, that's what I'm doing.
Wow.
Yeah, sound design as well. For remixes, the cool thing about, or at least what I think is cool about the way I do remixes, is if you took the vocal away, it's just an original song.
Okay,
to be honest,
I think I'm starting to understand it a little bit better. Because remix means so many things, and in hip hop, remix means something completely different, and in the electronic world, it means another thing. And when I was in school, they had us do a remix, which was essentially like, I think it was kind of a bit what you're doing, where we had the stems, but we just had to make it sound as different from the original song as we could, kind of thing, without actually composing anything new, just chopping everything up, or maybe reversing some things and pitch shifting. But essentially, all of the elements are there. The building blocks are there to work with, and you're just kind of re-manipulating them.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
So, it's kind of changing all the time. It's kind of it's very like gray area. Yeah. For me, at least, remixing. They're also like bootlegs. I did this one. It's up on SoundCloud as well, but I did this bootleg of a song called Our Story. Okay. By these, then at the time, it was 2 guys, Logan and Alex. They go by Mako. So that remix started out as a bootleg. And a bootleg is essentially like you take the original song. Yeah. It's not like they didn't send you stems or anything. Okay. You just took the original song, and you found a part where the vocals were free enough for you to use them, and you just mix it in with the other elements that you want to bring to the table.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
a bootleg.
for that bootleg, or it actually ended up being an official remix, that was like the first moment where I started dealing with like being paid for something and getting all of these opportunities coming in. And that was kind of like the turning point for me, where I was like, okay, maybe I can actually do something really cool with this.
Yeah.
And we're still close friends to this day, which is really nice.
Great.
And he's doing really well. One of them actually went on to become a lawyer, I think. So he took a step down from that, but yeah, Alex is still there, and he's like crazy, phenomenal, like vocalist, instrumentalist, producer.
Yeah, like what I heard, just everything was just top notch. The vocal performance, the production, the mix, everything just sounded really like high level, just, like really pro.
Damn, man.
So
thank you.
I'm super impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how much are you doing that kind of stuff, and how much are you doing like where you build something completely from scratch and then send or invite a vocalist over to come sing on something you made? Is that something that you're doing as well?
Yeah. So for a few years there, the Breathe remix, the Inverness remix that I think we're talking about now.
I heard that one too.
Yeah. So that one, that was the last remix that I've done.
Okay.
I'm planning on doing. Because up until that point, all of last year, I was releasing remixes, and it was intentional. It was kind of to drive traffic from their fan base, and from my fan base, and kind of grow from there. And because I had already started to really develop a sound, it was something new for that artist to hear.
Sure.
If I could get it to them, and for everybody else to hear. So it was a bit of a tactical move that way. But after the Breathe remix, and throughout that last year, I had just been building a catalog of original music.
Okay.
And that's what we're hearing now. Hold Me Down, which was the first original that I put out in probably about 4 years.
Okay.
That came out in January.
All right.
And then Eye for an Eye quickly followed, and that came out middle of February. So that was about 2 weeks after.
Okay.
And Like a Ghost just came out on Tuesday. So yeah, I'm just kind of bringing all my original stuff to the table now. And
so those last three are all original.
Yeah,
everything.
All original compositions. Wafy, he's on Like a Ghost. He's the vocalist, and he's also on Hold Me Down. So he's local. He's
nice.
Like one of my best friends.
Yeah.
He's from Nimbus.
Okay.
We were in the same class, and he just started doing this Wafy project, and I was just like so drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's amazing.
Yeah.
So I've just been working with him a lot. And Eye for an Eye was like a year and a half in the making. That was what I was working on basically at the start of going to Nimbus.
Okay.
And it went through so many different revisions and versions. And it was crazy. Like the folder of just that project, there's like 30 different versions.
Yeah, I have projects like that as well. Yeah.
And you can see like visibly the frustration that I was feeling at the time with the title. It was, that's how it is. But
yeah, and then the naming of the, Final Mix 1.0, Final Mix 2.0.
Final Mix. Is this even done
And then
yet?
it's been a year, so it's like Final Mix 2018, like
exactly.
Final Mix 2019.
I think there's a version in there where it's just it's like Eye for an Eye. I don't even know anymore.
Because you're going to school, or you were at the time, and it's a huge learning period of growth. That's totally understandable, right? Like every week you're going to learn like a new technique, and you're going to be like, oh, fuck this. I got to go redo that because I got to try this new parallel compression technique on this, whatever. Let me go and then rename it. So I've felt like I've been in that zone for the past 5 years. Like it's crazy, especially since I've been engineering at 2-Track, just nothing. I can't put anything out where I feel like it's finished, unless I'm doing a mix in session with a client and I've got the time limit. Right. But if it's me doing stuff on my own, it's like so much all the time, new techniques, so much can be watching done. Videos. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's never going to end,
Yeah, but that's the challenge of like having an artist project and like calling something your own is like you have to, at some point, you just have to be like,
it's done now.
It's done. Even though you could spend years and years on it.
Making
adjustments.
Better,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you lose that initial spark and like idea that you had, which is okay. It's just, it's nice to let go of things and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, you have to eventually. Yeah. And it feels good. It feels really good. Like last year, I released an album, the one I showed you, which is on Spotify and Apple Music and everything. And I had stuff on there that I started when I was at Nimbus, which was in 2012. Yeah. So that was a good 5-6 years of like, I've just got it on ice. Every month or so, I'll go back, check it out, retweak it. But it was never my main focus. I always had that project, that album kind of on the back burner, especially since I was engineering so much and mixing for other people and stuff. But yeah, essentially it was had a 6-year timer on it. And then when I put that out like the week of my 29th birthday last year, I was like, oh, it felt so good.
Such a relief.
It was so nice. And then getting that email back from iTunes, and then you can see your shit on Apple Music, and I was like, oh yes, like that was such a cool feeling.
No, for sure. It's just a great feeling to get music out there. It's almost, it's painful. It's painful holding on to music for so long, honestly.
Yeah.
It's because you're so eager to get things out, and you want things to go well, and you want, especially when you start thinking about like release plans and marketing and being able to push things and all these other things. You just want, as an artist, you just want to focus on the music, right?
Yeah.
Which is another thing. It's crazy.
And nowadays you have to be on top of all of the, on top of all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Which makes it really difficult. Like you said, we spend enough time as it is obsessing over all the finer details of just the music part, but then we also have to be our own agent and social media person and manager and booking our own shows. I mean, unless you're fortunate enough to be able to afford someone a quote unquote manager.
Find a manager that.
But most people aren't, and most people are just to get the music out already is they're digging into their own pockets really deep, and their day jobs paying for their subscription to get certain plugins and stuff like that, and it's an investment. It's all consuming. It's your whole life already right there. So where do you find time to promote and do all the other stuff? It's so challenging, and nowadays that's the most important thing. It just really is,
hands down. There's the musical component and being an artist and having that body of work. Yeah. And then there's all the time you have to put into all of those other aspects. And it is nice when you can find people that really believe in it. That's the way I see it, is that's the most important thing when you're looking for a manager or a team, is these are people that want to be invested in it and are excited about it, right? And that's hard to find. But that happens when you really start to grow into your own thing and you start to build relationships and friendships and I don't know. It's a journey.
It is.
It's a long journey. There's
it's a long journey with no obvious path. There's no obvious road. Yeah. It's like winging it you know,
until
renting a Jeep in Mongolia and there's nothing's fucking paved and you're just like, where's the road? How do we get to the next town?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. There's a lot of unknowns, especially, in the music industry.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then all of the obstacles all along the way, like everyone trying to get a piece of the action. Everyone, they see that you're talented and they see that you're doing things. They want to jump on board and suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
You got to watch out for those too.
Yeah. And to be honest, like, I think, you have to be cautious of that, but it's easy to kind of tell almost. I wouldn't say it's easy to tell, but it's I don't know.
If you've got if you've got a good bullshit detector.
You have to be aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be aware of those problems to even begin to understand that someone could be putting that situation on you, right? So
yeah, because if you're naive, then you're just gonna think that they want to be friends with you.
and the problem is you never know for sure. But there are people that are genuinely out there to help as well. Mm-hmm. But you just have to be aware and careful and
build a strong team around you.
Yeah. People that you love, really. Yeah.
People
you
that
like spending time with and
and that'd be your family, you know.
Yeah.
You look at all the big successful people and they're there because they've got people they can trust, and they're there because they've got people that they've known for years that they depend on, that that want to see them succeed as much as they want to succeed themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's like a secret of the universe, which as I get older, I'm becoming more and more in touch with that and more aware of it, realizing that succeeding for yourself is one thing, but I don't know, putting energy out there and seeing something grow that you put energy into can be just as rewarding as,
for sure,
me getting 10,000 likes is okay, but if I helped somebody, if I mixed something or did something for someone and put time and energy into it, and I see them doing well, you better believe I'm celebrating that night and being like, look at them, that's fucking awesome, and I helped them do that. You know?
No,
I love that. I love being in this industry as a engineer and as a producer and as a coach for a lot of people that are very, very new, coming into a studio for the first time. Right. I love that shit, seeing people develop, and
it is very cool.
That's what keeps me doing this, through the challenging, through the challenges.
Yeah, and there are lots of challenges, but it is rewarding seeing people you care about and the people that you're working with succeed. It's like it is a driving force for sure. In terms of, this is totally off track, but going back to the stuff that I do, I actually do have a mastering engineer.
Oh, you do?
So when it comes to mastering, I feel confident in my work there, but I also know that this friend of mine, his name's Brandon. He goes by Akira Complex is his actual artist name. Super talented guy.
Yeah.
And he just kills it.
Yeah.
He did it. He did. He mastered a few of those remixes, and naturally, just because of that sound, he just killed it. So
is that his main thing? Just mastering?
Nope.
Oh, he does other stuff.
He's got his own artist project. He's working in like, video games and that sort of thing. Sweet. Too. He's just all around crazy talented dude.
Cool.
And he is one of those people that I've kind of first met on the internet. So I've known him for about 5 years.
Yeah.
It's just like a pleasure to work with people. And I've actually never met him in real life. That's the crazy thing. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's just, he lives in the States. So we've never had a chance to connect and click, but that's the power of the internet is
Yeah.
you meet these
Oh,
people
man.
and you make these relationships and they just grow into like super, super tight bonds.
Yeah.
And then when you actually meet, you're like best friends. It doesn't even matter.
Isn't that funny?
It's amazing.
It's like you knew each other the whole time, right?
Yeah. And you really do.
Yeah.
You really do.
So, so how did you pick this guy though to be your mastering guy?
Being a fan of his,
Oh, okay.
listening to his work.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's always been really like technically savvy and he's just super talented. So, trying to think back to exactly how that conversation was initiated. But yeah, I think I just gave it a go. And
have you tried
really
like mastering your own material in the past?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, up until actually going through Nimbus.
Okay.
And I kind of started to understand that it's important to know how to do things and be aware of certain things, but it's also okay to hire someone that really like is making money off that and
100%.
they know what they're doing, right? And that's like the line of work that we're in, right? Is people trusting the experts to do a good job for them,
Exactly.
right?
And everyone having their own field of expertise. Everyone's got a role in this big puzzle.
Totally.
You know, like I didn't take my own photo for my album cover. I hired a photographer.
Exactly.
And she brought a ring light and we had curtains and it, you know, but it looked pro.
Yeah.
I didn't do a selfie on my iPhone 10. So that kind of thing. And
sure.
you can tell it's like, oh, nice. It looks good. Same thing with, you know, doing the artwork for your single or, you know, hopefully you're not going to edit your own video unless you're really good with Final Cut. Like there's a person for each role and
For sure.
And understanding that is, I don't know. That's huge. No, I really like that you brought that point up though, because for a long time, me personally, I was trying to do all of it on my own. I really was.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I didn't have a lot of money, but also because, I don't know, maybe it was ego. Maybe I wanted to be proud that I'd done it all
For
and
sure.
being like, look what I can do. I did, and say I did it all myself.
I did everything, yeah. Yeah, but there's value to that.
Yeah.
There's totally value to that because you've tried to dip your hands into everything, all those creative things. And the more you understand those concepts, the better off you are when you really start to hire someone or you see someone's work and you know exactly why you want to work with them.
Yeah. It's true. It's important to have tried it yourself at least so that you know what is amateur and when something is the next level. You can compare it.
Totally.
You can compare it, you know, like just thinking back of like before I knew what a compressor was and I was recording in GarageBand, like raw vocals into my M audio and $120 mic. And now the sound of the vocals that I'm able to get after that being my expertise, being my field, but like, yeah, it's come a long way and people hire me because I know how to do that. But I'm going to hire someone because they know how to do A, B, C, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's huge. I also hired a mastering engineer from my project. Up until then, I'd done everything myself. I'd done all my mixing and mastering myself. But it was that 6-year project where I was just like, you know what? I got to put a cherry on top of this after all of everything we've been through. Yeah. So I hired a really talented guy that a friend of mine had recommended, and yeah, it just sounded like, you know, my Slate Digital FGX limiter is great, but sending it to someone with some analog hardware and compressors, it just sent it back to me, and it was just like fucking huge, and just I was like, wow. So worth it to,
absolutely.
you know, to hire someone that really knows what they're doing.
Yeah. No, it's a process. And the other thing is when you're doing everything yourself, it's so personal, right? So you're so meticulous and you care so much about the very fine details, right? Whereas someone coming from an outside perspective and working on your stuff with you, it's valuable to have that other other ear. Because you get lost.
Yeah, you're
working on your own things. You get lost.
You get,
I think,
absolutely. So you're talking about like having someone else check something you're working on to get another opinion, or to be like, help me with this arrangement, or is that what you? Was that what you're saying?
Yeah, sort of. But I'm more referring to like the technicality of mastering, even.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Just the process of it. Even just mastering your own. That's why it's nice to hire someone that knows what they're doing, because you can pull away from that.
Oh,
you can listen to it objectively
with a new perspective.
Exactly.
Yes, someone else to get another set of ears on it and just give it that extra little whatever it was that was missing.
Yeah. Because
absolutely.
It's really hard to pinpoint what's missing when you've been working on something for so long.
Okay, totally. Know? Yeah.
So yeah, there's all those different aspects. So it's nice to
100%
find someone that you can trust, and that's just going to do a great job.
Yeah. Is your boy using, like, does he tell you what he's using? Is it all in the box?
I believe it is all in the box. Yeah. And I don't really know everything that he's doing.
Yeah. Got a secret sauce.
Yeah, but just cool.
Turns out incredible, so
yeah,
doesn't really matter.
He's awesome. And I'm really, really happy.
Yeah.
That we're working together. And he's stoked on what I'm working on, so it's nice. Because we're both very creative, and like that's where we come from, is just like making music and producing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to be working with a friend.
I was just so impressed, man, when I heard your music, and I was just listening to it, breaking down all the mixes and the depth, and you've got like these dry vocals in the front, and then you've got these delays with like an 8-second decay on it or something. There's so much space.
Thanks.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, and maybe tell me about some of the things on your vocal chain and like how you're putting that together to get that sound? It just sounds like very, like, there's some saturation on it.
The way
it's just very crisp without being harsh, right, and acidic.
Totally.
It just cuts fucking right through.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. Well, first, thank you. That's like a big compliment. But in terms of like the vocal processing, the way I do it in Ableton is there's tons of layers. Of course, I do have the main vocal, the dry vocal, and I always leave that at the front.
Okay.
And then there's all the vocal chops and everything like that too, right? So yeah, it's interesting to talk about the process. I usually have I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the layout of Ableton at all.
I've seen people, I've like glimpsed it on people's laptops, but I've never dipped my toes in it. No.
Yeah. Well, for Ableton 10, there's this, there's a new function, which is like groups within groups.
Okay.
So that helps a lot with processing and organization and everything like that. So that's something I really tried to focus on when I was first starting, was keeping things organized.
Great.
And in groups. So for the main vocal, it's usually the dry vocal with a little bit of convolution reverb. There's a Max for Live plugin.
Okay.
Which is called Convolution Reverb Pro. And it's basically just a bunch of different spaces that you can try out and play with decay and the size.
Okay.
So recently, that's what I've really been focusing on, is like playing with interesting things and having things going on in the background. In terms of the actual mixing, like EQing, I'm always using FabFilter.
Nice. Those are my favorite as well. Yeah.
So that's usually at the start of the chain, actually, is a FabFilter Pro Q2. I've been meaning to get the Q3, but we'll see.
Okay.
I've heard that it's really good, so I'd like to try it out at some point. But Yeah, there's a little bit of multi-band compression. There's this really nice compressor that I use as well called the Glue. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Haven't heard of it, but
it's by a company called Cytomics.
Okay.
So it's a glue compressor, and it really helps to keep all the vocals nice and tight. And,
super tight.
Yeah. So those are usually my go-tos. Is the like very basics, just fab filter, the glue, and then reverb. But I think what you're referring to and like the crispness of everything, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. There's actually, I put Replica on Ascend. So Replica is a plugin done by Native Instruments.
Okay.
And it acts as a delay, but there's also another convolution function in there.
Okay.
So that is essentially I'm pinpointing the high end and I'm just washing it. Like the size is like just completely wet.
Yeah.
But that's going on all in the background, and that's really just the high end. It's sparkly. It's not taking up any of the space. And I also make sure that I'm compressing it and EQing it so it's not like super abrasive, because it can get like that when you're filtering so many different elements through it.
So the send you're actually EQing and compressing as well.
Yeah. Which is, it's I would say my process isn't like super orthodox and like the norm. Especially working in Live 9. I think I actually kind of did an unintentional workaround with the groups within groups, because that's kind of how everything works. Is I'll have the dry vocal and then I'll have another group which has washed out vocals and basically a wet vocal layered underneath the dry vocal.
So like a parallel kind of thing that you're blending in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's just a lot of different elements. I have my laptop, so I can always like,
if you're down, I would love to take a peek.
100%, because it's probably easier to show you than it is to explain every little thing.
And for people that are not audio nerds that are listening, they're like, "Fuck, where's my translator?" Right now?
Like what's going on?
What the fuck is happening? Yeah. What language are these guys speaking?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I've got you here. Maybe we can take a look at that after the show. But cool, man. That sounds really dope.
There's a lot going on, and I don't really think about it either, because that's the one thing that I'm really trying to do, is not get too familiar with the process that I'm going with now, because that's kind of how you start running into feeling stale about your production and not really changing and advancing it. So always trying to spice it up and change it up a little bit,
and not create rules for yourself, and just kind of feel it.
Yeah. I just try really crazy things. There's a lot of distortion, and I just use like stock Ableton for that. I just use the overdrive that they have in there. But underneath the dry vocal, I'll have a distorted dry vocal. Okay. As well.
That might be part of what I was hearing, just that like really nice sizzle and that crispiness.
Yeah.
That was, okay. So some distortion, some light distortion, and it's saturating it.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of it. It's just like trial and error and doing weird stuff.
Have you taught a lot of this to yourself just by playing around with just for hours?
It's just like trial and error over the years. I was really, really, really into reverb when I was like kind of first starting out. I thought it was just like, it was just mind blowing. It just filled up the space and it was really cool. So for a moment there, I was really just making like chill hip hop beats and really experimenting with reverb and like spaces and everything like that. And that's just carried over into where I'm at now and my understanding of how to play with those spaces. And I think that's what's bringing all the depth to what I'm doing.
Sure.
And it's at the point where I just go for it and I don't think about it. But it's nice to have these conversations because then I can kind of retrace my steps and focus in on what I'm doing exactly.
Yeah.
But for Eye for an Eye, Erin is the vocalist for that, and she's amazing. She's based in LA now, but she was, at the time when she sent me vocals, she was in Scotland.
Cool.
So, yeah, she's another one of my friends that I've met over the internet. So I just sent her an idea, and she did she did her thing, and she sent me over stems within like 2 hours.
Wow.
And that was early on in the song process. Mm-hmm. So I messed with that for like a year.
Get the stems in 2 hours and then the song takes a year.
Exactly. And yeah, she was just like amazing. Her voice suit the track perfectly. And she did it so well. So
Are you recording any of the vocals yourself, or most of these people are doing the vocal recording in a studio and then sending you?
The 3 songs that I have put out originally, the vocalists have recorded them because they've come from a production background. Yeah. So, and I think that if there's a vocalist that likes doing that and they feel confident in their process, they know exactly how they want their voice to sound.
Yes.
And there's value to that. There's also value to like being in the studio with someone and working with them.
Yeah.
But sometimes the timeline doesn't work. And especially if, for in the case of Eye for an Eye and Erin, that was never going to work. So she recorded herself and she sent me what she had done. And then obviously in the production process, that's when I really start to mix things in and, do my vocal production on top of that.
Totally.
So
Did you learn much? What were the biggest things that you took away from your time at Nimbus? And how much of it are you still using in the new stuff you're putting out now, being out of school?
That's a good question. A lot of the vocal production, recording vocals. Mm-hmm. Some of the most basic teachings that they bring to you, like, proper gain staging and like finding that right level just at the get-go.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing that I had never really even thought about.
Yes.
Even though I had been doing it for about like 5 or 6 years before getting into it.
Yeah.
It's just never something I thought about. So
learning the fundamentals and revisiting that and exactly. So huge, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the little things and those kind of just blow your mind. So that was one very important thing. I really took a lot away from production and the engineering side of things, but I also I don't know if you ever had Tammy. So she came in and she did more of like the psychological aspect of like production and working with artists and conflict resolution and all that sort of thing.
I had her in the music business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her. So I think she ended up getting her own little class on that.
Good for her.
And that was like huge.
The compliment sandwich. Did you guys talk about the compliment sandwich?
Course, yeah,
that kind of shit.
Yeah,
right?
But that it was really, that was one of the biggest things was like learning about like how to kind of diffuse a tense situation and reading body language and that sort of thing. So that's like completely unrelated to audio, but I found that super, super interesting and
definitely
super valuable.
Definitely. I would agree. Yeah.
As a side note, that was a huge part of what I learned in Nimbus. That was something I really tried to focus on, even on like day to day. When I started really thinking about that, I started to focus on that, even just talking to people outside of Nimbus and outside of audio is, yeah.
Like listening to someone fully.
Actively listening.
You know,
like passive and active listening.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of just waiting for your turn to have your verbal diarrhea.
For sure.
Actually, are you actively asking questions? Is this conversation going anywhere, or is it just two people waiting their turn to fucking spit facts at each other?
Are you really like hearing what they're saying and taking things away from that?
Right?
Yeah, that's huge.
And that is shit that I've used in my day-to-day. I use that with my wife. I use that at work.
Yeah, everywhere.
Not just in the studio, right? So, yeah, that stuff was valuable.
Super valuable. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if Dean was there at the time that you were there.
Mm-hmm.
So Dean was my Eng 100, Engineering 100 teacher.
Eng 100.
Eng 100, Engineering 100, the basics. But
did you guys learn a lot about? I didn't have Dean, but were you guys talking about mixing much with him, or what was the focus of that class?
There was a bit of mixing, but it was mostly just the very basics of engineering.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're miking things up properly and, you know, getting good gain staging and that sort of thing. Dean is like, that's his thing.
Yeah.
He's an amazing engineer. So
I've heard stuff that he's done and it's
crazy.
Like world class. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really cool. Learning from him. Super chill guy too. So you could always ask any question. We asked a lot of questions about mixing and mastering, and he firmly believes that he's an engineer first and foremost. So I think he really focuses on the engineering side of things.
That's cool.
Yeah. Crazy. So miking up drums, that's something I had never done before Nimbus.
Never considered that you could have 16 microphones for one instrument. Well, I guess drums is technically a bunch of instruments, but it's a thing. It's considered a thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a uniform thing.
A snare and a tom are technically two different instruments, and then a kick. But yeah, like, and then overheads, and then a room mic 6 feet away, and that shit was super eye-opening, right?
Yeah,
like
it's huge. It's something you never really think about.
Yeah.
Nimbus was like awesome, and going from Engineering 100 with Dean, I had Production 100 with Daniel.
Okay.
Yeah. I had Engineering. Yeah, Production 100 with Daniel, and I don't know if Daniel was there at the time that you were there either.
I don't think so.
But he just flipped everything on the on its head.
Yeah.
Once we got to production, it was, and of course, you know, there are two different courses, so of course, things are going to change, and
they're going to be focusing on different.
You're going to learn something new, but
yeah,
even the way he just taught us, it was two very different teaching styles, right? So he had the approach of really just teaching us what we wanted to know, and he gave us all the freedom, and he told us to break all the rules. But there was value in both of those, because Dean was all about the rules and all about, like, you know, the way things should be in the engineering world, and then Daniel was just like, fuck it, change everything.
Wow.
do what you feel is right, which is that was big
to get the best result, whatever it takes to get to the result.
Because you learn the fundamentals from Dean, and that's super valuable. And then you move on and you learn that you can just throw that out the window, but you know those basics. Yeah. So it's a building block.
Still really good to know those things. Yes.
For sure. So it's not like you're just destroying something because you don't understand it. It's you're intentionally doing it because you know you're going to get a different result.
Yeah.
So that was huge.
Cool.
And that's where, because they had a certain project, Found Sounds. I don't know if you.
That sounds familiar.
Basically, you went out with your class and you went out with, little Zoom mics, and you recorded things outside.
Oh, okay.
Like nature.
Oh, okay.
And then you were meant to make a song out of just the samples that you found. Yeah.
Shit.
And that was the coolest project. That blew my mind.
Right.
And that's where my love for recording through my laptop mic came from.
And I see.
Really capturing things from nature, because it was just like, I can do that.
You can make drum sounds from pretty much anything, right?
Anything.
Yeah.
And once I found that out, that was just the most eye-opening thing.
Yeah. And then how, like, there's no excuse not to be original now.
Mm-mm.
Like, now that you know you have that option, why would you steal someone else's snare? Go make your own. Go whack a broom against a door.
Do something crazy.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
you never know. Yeah. That was a pivotal moment for me.
awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that is, I've carried that wherever I go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, even in like Eye for an Eye and Hold Me Down. Hold Me Down especially, that was a song that I was out in my deck, I guess.
Okay.
In an apartment. So what is that called?
A patio?
A patio.
A balcony?
A balcony, yeah. Yeah, a balcony. And I was picking up, obviously, I was recording through my laptop mic, so I was picking up all of the sounds from the street. But I was just tapping the table and writing little percussion lines. And I kept that in Hold Me Down. So all of the percussion in that song and the snare included is like found sounds.
Nice.
And I'm probably the most proud of that song because of that.
Yeah.
Because
dude.
I switched out the kick just because I needed something that
a bit
could
more
drive,
body. Yeah,
a bit more body, and
yeah.
I had found a kick that I was like, this is perfect. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna run with it. But for percussion and like the snare, kept it, and I was like so happy with that. I still have those samples. I can still use them in anything, and that's really where I started to fall in love with doing weird stuff. Very like unusual. Most people would not record through their laptop mic, but a lot of people do now. They do voice notes on their phone.
Yeah.
It even like the audio landscape is changing from like a artistic like perspective. Artists are really just trying to like be lo-fi and do weird things, right?
Yep.
So
if you listen to a lot of the hip hop, or if you want to call it hip hop nowadays, but a lot of it's just like hard to listen to as an engineer because it sounds so bad.
Sure. Yeah.
You're like,
exactly.
Well, my whole world is collapsing here. What the fuck am I doing? Why am I even trying anymore?
Yeah.
What the hell is going on?
Yeah. But it's cool in certain ways too, because you see things.
Yeah.
You see what they're doing and you know why they're doing it intentionally, right? So
it's a creative choice.
Mm.
It's a creative choice. I mean, and it's been done before. Guys will use like a U87 or like another $10,000 mic, and then just like some rock band or whoever it is, and then just like distort the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And then that's their vocal. It's like you could have just used any mic and distorted it.
You had to use a U87
because that was in the mic, because that was in the studio. Like,
yeah,
yeah. But that's what we were saying. That goes back to the point you were making before, knowing the fundamentals and then breaking the rules, right?
Yeah.
The fundamentals is, yes, this U87 will give you an unbelievable vocal sound, but do you want to break the rules and make some crazy demonic voice?
Yeah.
Flip it upside down? You can do that too.
Yeah. But you have to learn the fundamentals in order to really understand how to do that, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's just a bunch of accidents.
Yeah. And happy accidents are important too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those happen in my songs. I'll do something.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, that actually worked really well. I'll leave it. I'll bounce it.
Yeah.
Save that sound.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's
there's
me.
A lot of that too.
That's me opening the door, yelling, I'm having a breakthrough, yelling at my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. Things.
I had a breakthrough tonight.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Happy accidents
Those
are when like that's like magic, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the magic happens, is when you're not thinking about things.
Yeah.
You just do something. You're like, I'm never going to do that again. but you got something really cool out of that result. So,
and it happened, but it worked for that scenario. Like that accident, that weird thing. You can't be like, that's my secret weapon.
Because it might not work.
It might, and try and use it on every record you make, and it might not work. But in that moment, and for that, you decided that it worked, and you kept it, and that was a good choice.
Yeah, and people that like value that sort of thing, they'll be like, "That's so cool."
Yeah,
or they won't even know, but they'll still think it's cool.
Some of my favorite moments in the records that I remember growing up listening to when I was a teenager are like mistakes or just like weird little things where it's like, why'd they keep that? Like, Nas is one of my favorite rappers, and also, in my opinion, like one of the greatest just skill wise rappers of all time. But there's like a moment on one of his albums where he fumbles a word, and it's just like, it's kind of cool. And then he decided not to do another take, and like that was the take, but it just sounded so real. Like he was just like, no, I like this take, and I did it in one go. Didn't have to punch in a bunch, and we're like, no, we're keeping that, and that's my take. And I don't know, stuff like that sticks with me, or just like weird stuff that you hear in a mix that the engineer decided to keep, or like, where it's like, you clearly should have got rid of that, or you could have easily got rid of that
from a professional standpoint.
But they kept it, and it's like, that made an impression. And I think that's a really important thing to consider when we make records, is just like, make people feel something, make people think something, make, don't just have it like droning along, make that needle move, do something, Yeah,
for sure. It's the human aspect of it too.
Yeah.
Right? Those little mistakes, that's the most important thing, because people can, for a second, snap out of it. A lot, like, especially nowadays, because everything is so, well, I don't want to say everything is like mass produced, but there's a lot of, it's so pristine.
Everything's like perfect, super produced and perfect. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But I think people are like really starting to roll back on that. Artists especially are really taking a step back, and they're trying to consider, people want to connect with me on like a human level. And if I sound perfect everywhere, from the snare to like a little vocal chop, there has to be something that's human about it.
Or a big thing for me is like being able to hear people breathe.
Yeah.
If the engineer cuts out every breath, or they just cut it down and like turn it down by 13 dB.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can like hear them, and you can imagine that person as a person, and they're there, and you can picture the mic, and you can hear them struggling to get to that next breath, and that's like, it just sounds organic. It sounds like there's a person there, as opposed to like, an android just going through auto tune, and it's just so clinical, and just, I want to hear that human part of it. Yeah, for sure. And in any way that they can preserve it, because that's what it should be about, like feelings. Music is about capturing feelings
for sure,
and capturing it on wax, like what it used to be, and then preserving it, and then here it is. This is a disc of feelings. And you can put your needle on it, and
there you go,
and it grooves, and it fills the room with a certain energy and an atmosphere. So what's next for you? Like, where are you going with all of this?
Yeah.
Do you have a plan?
Big question.
Do you have an ultimate goal? Like, are you trying to be at the Junos in 5 years? Are you?
Yeah. When I first got out of Nimbus, I set of like a 5-year goal of kind of being part of some major records in the future. Whether that was definitely from a production standpoint, but even like mixing and that sort of thing. Because who knows? Like 5 years down the line, I'm starting to feel confident in what I'm doing now, and I think man, like 5 years down the line, I don't even know what I'm going to be making. So it might be unrealistic, but I said I would be trying to produce for like Ariana Grande and like working with like Benny Blanco and like that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so we'll see. That was just a little blimp, but it's good to have that kind of that goal, because I'm trying to keep myself and like hold myself to a high standard.
So for you, it's more about not releasing your own music, but being part of big projects and contributing as the producer, as the person that's making the music behind the vocal.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but that's where I have some trouble. Not, I don't know. I guess, yeah, trouble, because I want to be doing those things, but I also, right now, I'm very focused on the artistic side of things and having my own project.
Yeah.
But I have friends that have done that, and they've done it like successfully and run with an artist project, and their artist project might get picked up by a major label, and then who knows what happens there, because you have those skills.
Yeah.
They're going to pair you with vocalists, and they're going to pair you with artists as well to produce for them. So, and I have friends that are doing that like as we speak. That's what they do.
That's so cool.
So yeah, it's all just one little thing. And right now I am really running with the artist side of things. For my personal project. I'm trying to work with friends in terms of like mastering and trying to kind of build a brand and like an image with the artwork. And that's another friend of mine that's based in the States, and she's like super talented. She is a producer as well, and that's where we first met. But she went on to just start creating this ridiculously cool art, and I knew that it captures something when it's my song and her work as well. And it goes visually and like aesthetically, it works really well together. And that wasn't like the intention. It was just like I wanted to work with her, and I thought her art was really cool, but it's kind of just blossomed into that, and that's been really cool, because that's been like Hold Me Down, Eye for an Eye, and Like a Ghost. She's done all three of those.
The artwork. Nice.
And
nice. Yeah.
That art is incredible.
They look really good.
Yeah, it blows my mind, because she's incredible.
And it really suits the music. Is a big was what I found right away when I saw the picture and then I heard the song. It was like they were perfect for each other.
Yeah, and part of that process is I like to let her visualize. So I send her the song, and she just goes with it.
Nice.
And she comes back with an idea. Yeah, so that has just been, it's been really cool to start working with these friends that I've had for so many years, and people are taking different routes and different career paths, but they're still in an artistic realm, right? So you can still work with each other and do something cool. So that's my goal right now, is to work with friends and work with, people I love working with and enjoy working with. Starting to consider live performance and getting out and DJing. I do think that down the line it's going to evolve from just DJing. I do have some plans for that, but I'd say that's probably a couple of years down the line.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that as a visual experience, like a live show with Jesse Speaklow is the artist, and I think a live show with those sorts of visuals and a real set that's like fully curated by myself, whether it's like music that I really like, implementing like all of my own stuff too. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to create an experience, I guess. And that's a big project, right? So
would be.
You have to build a catalog and get your name out there and have artists support you and really believe in what you're doing. And that's kind of starting to happen now, which has been really cool. When I first put Hold Me Down out, I sent it out to this duo from Montreal. They're called Adventure Club. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they've been like when I first started making electronic music, they were one of the first artists I was listening to. They did this youth remix, and I sent it to them, and they just followed me, and they're like a super dope track, and that was really cool, and that was the start of 2019, and I made a point to start releasing original music and getting it out there. So that was really cool, and that just gave me like some more confidence.
Definitely,
right?
Yeah.
And then I released with a label that I had been trying to release with for 2 years or so, and I hadn't sent anything to them, but I had the intention of sending things to them and for them to pick it up and really like it. So that was Eye for an Eye, and they picked it up, and they've done an amazing job like promoting that and pushing that too. So
what is that? What is that process like when you say like you're not signed, but you're just submitting stuff in hopes that they'll like it and pick it up? Like what's that?
I'm not like exclusively signed to the label.
Right.
And a lot of labels like function that way nowadays anyways. Unless you're getting signed to a major, it doesn't really make sense to sign an exclusive contract where you're locked in for, like 3 albums or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's better for you as an artist to just lock in singles and EPs with whoever you want to go with. But Lowly, the label that I'm working with, is just, it's a perfect home for my sound and what I'm doing. So, and I've been a fan of their work, and I've been a fan of like the brand and the artists that have been on that label, and I've been watching it pretty closely since it kind of started. So that was a goal of mine, was just to get something that I felt really comfortable and confident in and send it over. And that was Eye for an Eye. So
that's wicked. And
yeah, that was big for me.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
So what are they doing for you though? I guess that's my big question.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
So the label, you send it to them. There's an email transaction. They get back to you.
For sure.
But what does the business side of all this look like?
So, obviously they handle. So like the very basics is they handle like distribution. So they're making sure it's like getting distributed to all the stores and.
Okay.
In terms of things like Spotify, they do have some power at play there. There's a YouTube channel called Trap Nation, which is fairly big. I think it's like 26 million subscribers on YouTube. So Andre, is the founder. Okay. He was just a teenager when he started it, and it kind of just bloomed into this crazy network and this crazy channel. So Lowly is basically him and a few other people's like baby. Like that's their label. They started that label.
I see.
So working with Lowly and having that Trap Nation aspect as well, like that's their powerhouse, I guess. Like if it really fits on Trap Nation and they really like the song, then they'll consider it and they'll upload it and push it through that network as well.
Okay.
And that's what happened with Eye for an Eye. They put it up on Trap Nation, and that's sitting at I think 700,000 views in like 2 months.
Wow.
So it's like it's crazy, like the push and the power that has. And then they have a Spotify playlist as well, which is like 2 million followers. So in terms of like streaming and like I guess the numbers aspect of it all, there's some power at play there for sure. Yeah. And I guess numbers matter. They do.
So what are they? They're distributing it for you, but as far as like, what are they keeping? Are they keeping a percentage of your stream money, or what is it?
Yeah. So
how does that work?
That's sort of, it's basically like a 50-50.
Okay.
So they're taking 50 and I take 50, but I worked with Erin, and she's a friend of mine, so I also did a 50-50 with her as well. So realistically, it's like 25, and 50.
But 700,000 streams.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, like,
there's a payoff, right?
Yeah. So, and it's definitely not why I went with the label. Like, I am just genuinely, I love their brand and like their aesthetic and that sort of thing. But they also have that power, and they have that power to reach. It gives you the confidence to reach out to artists that were on that label previously, or artists that might not be aware of what you're doing, but you have that opportunity to say, you know, this song, if you're sending out a promo email and you're sending out, promo emails to other artists and artists that you really look up to, you have that sort of confidence to say this was on Trap Nation.
Sure.
Or it was pushed that way, right? So
it's on your resume now.
Yeah. It is a way for you to kind of give that email a bit more power if you're really trying to reach out to people. And obviously you can say that, but if they don't like the song, they don't like the song, you know. And that's up to them. But they'll probably hear it.
And are these online labels looking for what are they looking for? Because they must be getting people that are listening and that are making music in your genre thinking like, oh, you know, all I have to do is submit my music to a label. Like, are they just getting tens of thousands of emails every day from people?
Crazy.
And people, there's someone in an office with headphones just like auditioning tracks all day. Like, how does it work? Like,
it's like being an A&R is essentially listening to demos all day, which is like, it's nuts. Like, that job is crazy because they are listening to thousands of demos, tens of thousands probably throughout the week. And it's hard to filter all of that out.
I'm picturing Aaron Green and Get Him to the Greek. You remember that movie? Where he's working for P. Diddy?
Yeah, exactly.
And they have that meeting where they all come into the P. Diddy's office. So those guys are the A&Rs, and they're like, oh, I just discovered the next, I just you know, insert famous person. So
yeah, for sure. So, and that's not the only thing they do. They don't just like listen to demos, but
it's a big part of their job. So that's what those people are there for. That's a big part of what they're doing.
They're there to find that next big thing, or find that song that they know for a fact is a good fit.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And you have to trust your own ear, especially as an A&R. Like, that's, you pride yourself on like knowing the taste of the people you're working for.
Yeah.
And so you know what's best.
Yeah.
And you go based off of that. You trust your gut a lot of the time. Is like, this is perfect. Like, this is going to work really well. But, you know, for labels like that, you're going to have multiple A&Rs. So people have different tastes naturally, right?
Yes.
So you have to consider different tastes as well. But, you know, it comes down to a yes or no eventually. And if you're getting that many demos, like, I don't think you can sit on something for too long, right?
Yeah.
You got to keep moving.
Wow.
And seeing. Yeah, it's crazy.
Unreal.
It's crazy.
I never really considered it, like, the whole process like that. Like, I know about all these jobs, obviously, in the industry, but, like, now that we're having this conversation and it's something that you've been through and you've done it, you realize, like, yeah, I mean, God, there's those people out there that are just Santa's elves, just, you know, with the conveyor belt of presents going down the line, and they have to, you know, go through all of them. And there's just got to be so much garbage out there, though, that they have to. I mean, they probably have a process where they've listened to like 13 seconds of it, and they know, and they're like, okay, no, I mean, it's like a no right away.
You can probably listen to like the first 5 seconds of the song and know.
Yeah.
And if you know the 5 seconds you're not sure, you just skip to the chorus.
Yeah.
And see if it's something that is really energetic and you know, has that production quality and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's no way that you can listen to thousands of demos all the way through.
No.
You know, it's just like those little snippets for sure.
And as far as like the sonic quality of the music, forget about the song itself, but like would a label ever be like, yo, we really like this, but would you consider having someone mix it better? Or would you consider a different, send it to us unmastered and we'll, we really like it, but let's say you had someone did a crappy job of it.
Yeah.
Is that something that they would
yeah, I think
suggest?
For sure. I think there's like a lot of great music might not have the best mix down and the best master. And that does come into play. Like, you have to know the value of an idea, and if it's something that you really like, but it's lacking in some areas, then I guess that's a decision you make. And I don't really know, because I'm not an A&R, but I'd imagine you'd have to consider that as well.
But it isn't, I guess my question is, it's not something that they have, that's not feedback you've received yet, being like, we this has potential, but it sounds a little rough.
No, thankfully.
Yeah.
But I think that's partly because I tried to be as prepared as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
That's like, I go into a relationship with a label and whoever I'm working with. My goal is to come prepared and make sure that they can do their job to the best of their ability. So that's like pushing the record and marketing and that sort of thing. And I usually in the past I've come prepared with a full master.
Yeah.
Done by Brandon.
Yep.
And the artwork. And that's two things that they no longer have to worry about.
Exactly.
And then they can really just focus on where they're going to place it and whether it's going to be a good fit. And sometimes it isn't a great fit for like Trap Nation, and that doesn't really work out. And that's just an example for Lowly. But yeah, I don't know. It's good to be prepared when you're coming into those situations. It's good to, it helps the label as well.
Yeah.
And it shows them that you're prepared.
Totally.
Like you know what you're doing, what sort of aesthetic you're going for. And yeah, it's definitely like, it's appealing. And I put a lot of thought into that coming into actually submitting music to a label.
Yeah. It's so important. Like you said, it's less work for them. You've presented it in such a good way that they can just take it and then worry about what they have to do.
And they have a lot to do for sure.
Like I used to be an editor for Hip Hop Canada, which is like a national hip hop website.
Right.
And one of my jobs was, I guess I was essentially an A&R for them in a way, because I would receive all of the emails for the West Coast of Canada.
Right.
And people were like, yo, here's my new single. Can you put it on your website? And I had a mentor. She was the head editor of the West Coast. And she taught me, this is what you do. These are the things you look for. Learn the HTML coding of how to take it from the raw email to get it on the site. But the biggest thing for us, and what I was taught, was like, because you're getting so many of these, right? The people that have their write-up already put together, the artwork is submitted as an attachment already in the photo. They've considered all the little details so that all I have to do is copy paste. Yeah. Put it on the website and then
how could that
write
not
a review about it. And that's it. It wasn't really the sad thing about it wasn't really about the music as much. It was just about like, does this person have their shit together?
Yeah.
and that was all we were really looking for a lot of the time.
For sure.
Unless I was doing specifically an album review. I used to do, someone would send the album and then I would write what I thought about it. That was another thing. But as far as just the gigantic stream of submissions, it was, there were a few things I was looking for. If it crossed all the checklist, then you're good to go. Yeah. I don't really need, and a lot of the music I didn't really listen to, Yeah. I was just there to do, that was a job, right? But it was so important. Yeah, man, the people, because I can't be wasting time emailing back asking for stuff, because then that's more emails and I'm setting myself back.
Also, and you're also focusing on like emails from other people coming in.
There's already 15 new submissions that have come in, so I can't go 2-3 steps backwards with you.
Yeah. It's important to see where that side of things is coming from as an artist, especially.
It is. It's really huge to just be professional as much as you can.
Yeah.
And consider someone other than yourself. Consider the people that are on the other side of the transaction as much as possible.
For sure. Yeah. It pays off to be prepared and to know what you want going into something.
Yeah.
But it takes a few years to understand that. Like when I first started, my emails were awful.
Yeah.
Like I was also just a kid, so I didn't really know how to format an email, but yeah, it's just like, having things prepared and sending a certain type of link, and like that even comes into play, right? That like you have to make sure that it's private and it's downloadable, and those are not things you think about as a 15-year-old kid that's just starting out.
Exactly.
And you have to remember that like people are really just starting out. They've seen this craze and they're curious about it, and now they want to start doing it.
Yeah.
So the job never stops for A&Rs and people that have to listen to demos all the time. I'm sure that's like crazy, but
yeah,
I think what makes it worth it for them is like they find gold.
Yeah, it's it's a fishing expedition, man. It's just...
yeah. They find something that they really, really like.
Yeah,
and that's what excites them. They're like, "This is awesome.
Yeah,
I can work with this."
Yeah.
So I guess
finding the treasures.
Yeah, and that's the payoff.
That's
for
what
sure.
keeps you hungry.
For sure. Finding the next talent. Like if you love doing that, then that's what's gonna make you tick and keep going.
Yeah,
and love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to meet an A&R and like hear some stories if I can find one.
Yeah, and I'd imagine cool. Like A&Rs from like even back when it wasn't so digital.
Yeah,
I imagine they have even crazier stories because they
had to physically go to the show probably and the bars and watch the band.
And not that A&Rs don't do that now, but
yeah.
It was a lot.
That was a lot more, I'm sure, before Instagram.
That was all of it, right? It was It was all about, can this band or this artist like kill it live?
Yeah,
and that was probably a defining factor for an A&R was like, can this person control a crowd?
Totally.
And it's still super important nowadays, but those numbers and things on social media and your presence there everywhere on every single social media platform, that plays a part because they need to know that they can work with it, right?
Yeah.
They need to know that you're ready to grow.
Yeah.
On those platforms too.
Yeah, you've already done some legwork and you've got a following already. So if they're going to pick you up, they're not just starting from zero.
They know exactly. They know that you're bringing something else to the table as well for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's just so much you have to think about as an artist that's like trying to break through. But
the live thing, man, is so key. I mean, for people doing electronic music, it's not as important, but if you're a rapper out there or you're an R&B singer or something like that and you can't perform live, man, you got a hell of an uphill battle, like, because
that's your whole thing.
Nowadays more than ever, like people are making the most of their money off of tours and stuff because no one's going to HMV anymore.
Still, yeah.
So you've got to be, and then people are going to want, if they like your music and your producer makes you sound dope in the studio, people are going to want to see you live. And if you're lip syncing your whole set or you can't do your verse in one breath or one go, like,
people are going to catch on.
People are going to see that right away, man. And so yeah, man, just it's got to be a focus is be as good live as you are in the studio or better. I mean, really, really refine that because eventually you're going to have to go on tour. If you do blow up, if you get good, if it goes beyond the studio in your bedroom and you get picked up, you're going to have to go live and you're going to be, those little clubs are going to turn into arenas and then like shit, if you don't know how to move a crowd and walk around on stage and rap and sing and move at the same time, it can be really tough.
Yeah. And that's that's a growing thing too. You know,
Yeah.
like there's a whole thing about confidence and being like comfortable with yourself. You have to be like so comfortable with yourself and comfortable with making mistakes, because inevitably there will be mistakes.
Yep.
Like even DJing and like performing a set like that, like you're gonna run into problems. You're gonna make mistakes. So yeah, it's just like kind of owning it and just having fun, I guess. And I haven't really DJed, so I'm coming from a place of not really knowing too much about it. But I think that's what I think about when I think about performing live is, I don't know. I just want to have fun. I see a lot of my friends that like come through Vancouver and they play shows and like local friends as well. And it's always like seeing them have a lot of fun.
That's good.
That's important. You have to have fun.
Yeah.
Because it's tiring. If you're touring, and that's exhausting.
You should be passionate about this.
Yeah.
You should. And it should not be about the fame and the money and the limousines. It should be, because there are definitely going to be low moments and there's going to be really difficult times. And if it's not about the music and if it's not about I enjoy this whole process, then you're going to find
it's going to be tough.
It's going to be very tough.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be obsessed. You've got to be passionate, and find your thing and just really, really get crazy about it, you know, but do it for the right reasons. For sure.
Yeah. You have to love it.
Yeah.
Like you have to, because you will run into times where you like question why you're doing it, or
definitely,
you know, it's just going to be a rough patch, and there's you have to love it. You have to like kind of remember why you started doing it and what makes you love it. And I think for a lot of people that is live performance. I think a lot of people do love performing live, and and outside of like the label world and the artistic versus like the corporate kind of element of being an artist and working with a label and having like a brand and everything, that can be tiring. But I'm sure as soon as you hit the live stage, you're like having a good time. You love it. That's where you get your energy.
The people that are naturally extroverted and like being entertainers and like being the center of attention, like that would be what you would live for.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
To be up there and move in the crowd.
For sure.
What got you into this in the first place? Like at the beginning of this conversation, you talked about getting Logic from your parents, but when did you, and you know, you said you played piano for a little bit, but when did you decide like, I want to try being a music producer? Was there somebody that you liked? Was there an album or an artist that changed everything for you? Like when did it really click?
I know the exact moment.
Okay.
I was in grade 8, so I was like, I was big into, it was like around the time of like Call of Duty and like Call of Duty montages and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I had friends that did that for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny to say, but I was on a lunch break with two of my good friends. They're still good friends of mine as well. But yeah, we were on a lunch break, and one of my friends pulled up a video on YouTube, and he was like, my cousin actually does like Call of Duty montages. And at that time, that was like a big thing.
Yeah.
You liked everybody played Call of Duty, and you liked watching quickscope montages and like stuff like that, right?
Seeing the headshot reels, yeah.
It's so crazy how much detail I know about this one moment, but Scary Monsters by Skrillex was playing.
Okay.
And that's the song that he used for the video. And he synced up all of the, you know, stuff that you do in Call of Duty, all the kills and everything like that. And it was like he did a really good job of editing it and like adding impact to that song, I think.
Cool.
But I was just so drawn to that. I was like, what is this music?
Yeah.
Like I've never, and I think I had heard it, like even listening to to like Gorillaz as a kid with like my dad. My parents really introduced me to like Gorillaz and like Backstreet Boys, and there was always that like pop production element to it. But that shit just blew my mind. I just heard it and I was like, who is this? And where,
I
like,
need
what
to
is
know
this?
more about this right now.
And like the next day we looked up Skrillex and we looked up, and at that time, his EP Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites had just come out. So it was like Scary Monsters and Rock and Roll and With You Friends, Long Drive, and like there's like all of these songs that I'd never like heard anything like it, and every song was different. It was like a different genre, so it just blew. It was crazy, and
So
that's where it happened.
That's where it happened for you.
Yeah, I was like, I need to learn how to figure out. I need to see how this works.
Yeah.
And then we started.
You're fascinated at that point, right?
And it was just a curiosity thing, and then we started getting like, actually another friend came on board after that, and he was really intrigued by it as well. So we all got like apps on our phones, like little beat making apps, and where you would just tap like a, kick, snare, and like a little drum pattern, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. And then one of them was into graphic design, so we made up this logo, and we were gonna like form kind of like a collective, or like just a bunch of kids like making beats and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
And that's where it all started. And eventually, like, obviously, you lose interest, or you learn, you go into something that you find more intriguing, and a few of those friends did do that, and that's totally fine. And I still have probably one of my best friends back home in Winnipeg. He still makes music, and we still talk about music.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I just like, I think I just took it to a different level, and I was just like, I'm in it now.
I'm in this game now. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like the exact moment where I was like, I need to learn how to do this.
Very cool.
And I'm sure for a lot of people like, I'm sure around that time, Skrillex was a big inspiration for people, just because it was just so out there and so weird, so next level too,
groundbreaking.
Like,
really,
that like still listen. I still go back and listen to that EP at least every year, at least once every year, and that stuff still stands up, still holds up, like still kills clubs and live venues. Yeah, no, it's just crazy. It's
a unique
timeless
character, that one. Yeah,
and like, and really like looking at his career and where he's gone and the things he's done is just like crazy. He's entered everything in the music industry. He's blown up to be this household name and done some crazy stuff.
His name is synonymous almost with that style of music at this point. Like
for sure.
You would just say like, oh, it sounds like Skrillex, and people would kind of know what type of music you're talking about. Like,
definitely,
a little bit.
Yeah.
I heard a friend of mine showed me a project he did with Diplo.
Jack U.
Was it called LSD or something like that?
LSD is actually, I believe that's Diplo, Sia.
Oh, Sia.
Yeah, it's. I'm blanking on the first artist.
Was Skrillex not part of that?
No, but Skrillex and Diplo did have a project called Jack U. And Jack U, they really popped off when they did a track with Justin Bieber.
Okay.
Where Are You Now? That was the song. And that was on their album, but it was also on Justin Bieber's Purpose album. And that's where like they kind of just blew into the pop atmosphere. Like they blew, because I think Skrillex and Diplo had a hand in like a few of those tracks.
I was reading through the production credits of Purpose, and noticed both their names on there.
There's like 18 different producers on that record.
Oh my god,
crazy!
It was like a Hollywood movie looking through the credits, like all the people, the personnel for.
Yeah, and I remember reading this article, and this was like during the time of Nimbus. I was trying to like learn about the process of like recording and that sort of thing, just to read up on that sort of thing. And I stumbled across an article about Purpose and like the production team.
Yeah.
I was just like blown away.
Production team, writing teams for lyrics, things like that.
Yeah,
like,
because
so much money went into that.
Yeah, and I was just being introduced to like all those different aspects of the industry.
Yeah.
But at the time, I read the article and it was like Skrillex was in India, he was on tour, and like all these producers are in different places, but they're all reporting to like the executive producer and like giving these ideas, and they had a deadline. They had like 2 weeks to do like mix and finish this thing, and like people were touring and doing other things, and it's just like, that is nuts. But I would love to be part of something like that.
Yeah.
Where everybody's just like doing their own thing, and you somehow come out with this crazy collage of sounds. And it works, and
it was nuts. That album, every song was a hit. Like it was in the mall. When that album came out, it was just, that album was in the mall. Every song, you would hear it in this. It was everywhere, and it had so many different. It had trap, it had pop, it had EDM. It had like,
it was a fusion.
And he, album. I mentioned Nas already, but he didn't have a feature with Nas on that album. Like,
maybe, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Nas had a verse on that album too. So you had like hip hop, and it was everything, but it all worked so seamlessly. And man, like that was such a huge success. Like, in so many ways,
crazy. But that's so cool to me, is that people can be all over the world and still work on this one project.
The way that you do it.
Yeah.
Actively right now, right?
Like, and like bring your own thing to the table, and someone else brings something to the table and they do their thing. And it's just so cool.
It's the internet for you.
Yeah.
Like, we can all be, sharing things back and forth, and then not even having met some of these people.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like
it's crazy.
I'm like so beyond thankful that I saw a Call of Duty montage with Skrillex. And it's just like such a weird thing to say, but man,
it turned your life in a whole new direction,
my life,
right?
For sure. Like, we wouldn't be sitting here. I don't think. Maybe some odd events, Like maybe I would have ended up here, but who knows? Crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't have ended up in Vancouver,
That's really cool though, and that you remember it so vividly. Hey?
Yeah,
like
it's like shocking.
It really impacted you.
It did.
Yeah,
and it still does. And I think that's probably, if I had to say, like, the biggest goal I have is to. I mean, working with Skrillex would be nuts, but just to have him hear what I'm doing and like respect it and like it. Maybe not even like it. Maybe it's not his thing, but he's heard it and he can respect it from a certain point of view. That would just, and I'd lose it.
Maybe get a chance to tell him that he was the reason.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy, just to meet him and be like, yo, do you realize?
I mean, I'm sure he's heard that thousands of times by now, but
I can imagine. Yeah.
But I would just try not to fanboy and lose my shit. But it's an internal thing where you're just like, oh my god, that'd be crazy. But I think, who knows? I don't want to say that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I just want to keep working hard, and we'll see.
Yeah, and like you said, you set your 5-year goals and you work towards things, and if you love it, dude, like, it won't feel like it's taking a long time. You'll just be on the journey, and you just be riding the wave, and you're just doing it.
I'm not counting the years. I'm just like, I didn't.
No.
This year passed. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It just flew by, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh god.
Yeah, just gotta keep working and see where things go. And
wicked.
Yeah, it's an open journey, but like the skills and just everything that I've learned along the way, it's just been so crazy valuable.
Yeah, man.
For the rest of my life.
Yeah. Not just the skill, the music skills, but the interpersonal skills, the people skills, all absolutely. That you carry with you. So
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, let's wrap this up. I think we've closing in on like 2 hours here.
Yeah.
Before we get you out of here, where can people find you online if they want to? Are you on Instagram, social media? If they want to go follow you, check out.
Yeah.
Get a taste.
Everywhere on all social media except for Twitter. Hahlweg is the artist name, so HAHLWEG.
Okay.
Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter is Hahlweg Music because I can't get that handle because there's an inactive account with Hahlweg, of course.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Music will pop up and yeah,
Yeah, you'll have to shoot me some links because
definitely
I'm gonna have everyone we have on the show will have in the description for their show. We'll have links,
social media links, and everything.
People can check that out.
Totally.
But I'm really glad we did this.
Me too.
Thank you so much for coming through. This has been really fun.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun.
And thank you everyone for listening. Hope you're having a fantastic week, and we will see you next time. All right. Peace.
Peace.